It is only a transition to a different sphere of consciousness. Carol Ann is not like those she's with. She is a living presence in their spiritual earthbound plane.
So here I am in the Rodenkirchen Cemetery, which is in the town that I live in Germany. I wanted to come here today because I felt it was the best place that I could go to in order to be able to answer the various emails that I've received and been really far too distracted or lazy to deal with. I have to say, maybe the first one will help me explain it a bit better. That sometimes I kind of need a break in a way from talking to people who are dead. Maybe it's because I never really genuinely think that I am a medium that can do things on demand or anything like that. Otherwise, perhaps I would have made more of a career of it, but that doesn't interest me at all. I'm very much more interested in the possibility that I could find and learn more things myself, and perhaps along the way help people. And you know, some people have been really kind and said that I've helped them a lot, and really the things that have come through me have made people be able to perhaps accept or maybe understand the loss that they've had. And also a lot of people find all the various things that are given to me very interesting. The first one I want to talk about, and I'll just use her first name. Her name is Anna, and she wrote, believe it or not, back on the 22nd of November last year to me. And I'll read her email, and I'll see if I can't help a little bit. Here I am, as I said, opposite a couple of graves facing absolutely due north, and that was by accident. I found a nice bench. I looked around. I wanted to find somewhere that I felt comfortable with, that I felt was lovely, and it's beautiful. It's just on the edge. It's in the northernmost part of the cemetery, and it's probably the last row of graves before it opens up to fields. And it's a nice little corner. Opposite me I have Familia Roberts, Heinz Roberts and Hilda Roberts. They were both born within a year of each other, 1926 and 1927, about a year later than my father. And Heinz died, predictably I suppose, as a man a good many years before, in 2007, and Hilda died in 2015. And rather sadly underneath is Sabina. She was born the year before me, 1959, and she died in the year 2000. So I presume that must be their daughter, and she must have died before all of them. I imagine, I don't know. Very sad in a way. It's fascinating still, that the stories that are there, and unless you know the family, you'll really never know the story unless they want to talk to me. But that really does make me feel so, I don't know, I have such a feeling of love when I feel that. I just feel that wonderful history of a family that was so important in the time. But obviously when the family have all moved on and the people who remember them are not here anymore, that mystery will forever be there. And then in front of me is the family Buna, Eberhard and Gertrude, quite old German names, so that would indicate they're quite old people, and they are indeed. I mean, Eberhard was born in 1909. He died in 2002. And Gertrude was obviously a little bit older. Sorry, a bit younger, what am I saying? She was born in 1912 as well and died 2 years later in 2004. And I was actually just saying to my wife yesterday how when I was in a graveyard I saw a couple who died within 2 months, less than 2 months of each other. And that seems to be something that happens quite a lot. And over there on the right-hand side in front of me is a beautifully done grave, lots of flowers. They really do believe in spending their money here. They have these companies that come and look after them and put in fresh flowers all the time. And I'm sure they do that all over the world, but I've really noticed that since coming to the graveyards here in Germany. I can't quite read it from here because it's been hacked into a lump of rock. And it's become very green and rather old. It does deserve me getting up and having a look and stop being so lazy. And it says Irene Kallerweger, geborn Bergbacher. So that was her maiden name. In 1929, and she died in 2023. And her husband is here, Herbert Kallerweger. He was born in 21. And he died in 2000. So she died 3 years or so later. So, yeah, lived together, died not far apart, and buried together, which I suppose is this wonderful human thing that we do. We find a partner often, and it's our partner in life, and will end up being a partner in physical death. But a slightly different situation if you wish to talk about what's happening to them now and what their souls are up to. But we've discussed that before. So thank you, Anna, for writing to me. I'll read the letter. It says, "Dear Philip, I stumbled across your podcast about 2 weeks ago, and I'm currently on episode 6, so I have a lot of interesting episodes left." You certainly do, over 60. "My name is Anna. I am 17 years old, and I live in Austria. I found the podcast on Spotify when I was searching for life and death related podcasts, and your podcast really spoke to me, and it really kind of got me in a shock when I started listening to it, but in a good way. I think I'm going to explain it with backstory. In my late childhood and prime teenage years, from about 10 to 13, I was in a really deep and bad depression, and I have also had a few attempts, and over the years I had some periods where I fell back into this state for a time, weeks, months, and sometimes only days. In May 2023, I had one of those relapses, and I had another attempt. But this one was different. I really almost left my body, and actually I'm sure I did. I got driven into the hospital, and it was really bad. In the first night there, when I was sleeping or something, I can't really remember a lot, I woke up for a second and I opened my eyes just a bit, and I saw a doctor and a few nurses. And then immediately a bright white light followed, and I fell back asleep, and I woke up the next day. To this day, I'm not quite sure what it was and what it meant, and have been really interested in life, death, and everything about it before. But this is what started making me more interested in it. I started working on myself, and I think I can say I became a confident, healthy woman. But I started questioning everything, and over the months, I came to the conclusion similar to what you talk about in your podcast. I never talked of myself as a body having a soul, but what I do talk about myself as a soul which has a body. I believe that everything is connected and that everything lives. I believe that everything is based on frequencies, and that physics and spirituality are not separable. If I talk about what I believe in for any longer, I think this would not go anywhere, but I hope you know what I want to say. I never talk to anyone about my beliefs, and I really can't really say it in words either. And if I talk to someone about, my pages, about my beliefs, it is either not understood or I'm told I'm crazy. So it really makes me happy that someone else is out there talking about what I think and who understands it. And the spirits, the souls that I believe in are saying the exact same thing that I think of every day. And it really touches me. I'm really sorry that this text has got this long, but I really wanted to share this. And I don't know if it sounds weird or how this could be possible, but I would really love to talk to you about this. And maybe if you could teach me anything I can to get closer to those spirits that are not in human form, and that you are talking to every Wednesday. I'm no psychic, but I really want to help people. And for me personally, the more I understand about the soul and all the other things that you talk about, the more I understand the people and also the crowd. So again, I understand if this isn't possible or you basically do not feel quite comfortable with this, it's totally fine. I understand that this is an unusual request, but if it does work out, at least I'm happy to be able to tell you how much I appreciate this. And again, sorry for making you read such a long text. Yours sincerely, Anna. So, Anna, again, thank you. I can only tell you now that although I've done my protection rituals and done everything that I normally do, which is what I would suggest everybody does if they wish to try to talk to things that are not of this physical world, and that I would strongly suggest you do that. And I think I've told everyone before what my spiritual protections are. I do this not because I believe that I'm going to be eaten up by some evil devil or anything else like that. I do it because I think it's just polite. It's almost like reaching out and summoning. And I suppose this has been done for thousands of years by all sorts of practitioners of magic as well. It's a part of probably showing your intention. It's a little bit like I spoke about in my last episode, where it's now being realized that you can summon UAPs or interdimensional entities doing exactly the same thing. Well, that's not surprising because, as I seem to be realizing, most of what we call spirits, gods, anything like that, are basically just us contacting interdimensional entities, of which we are one, but not physically in those dimensions at the moment because we're physically here. But we still have, or many of us still do, in fact I'm sure we all do if you practice, have the ability to contact interdimensions and people within those dimensions. So my first feeling is make sure you send out an invite, and I like to talk out loud, so rather than praying in my mind, it's a sort of a prayer, and prayers have been used by religions for years, so there's a lot to it. Come straight out with it and to say, look, I want to talk to someone who could be friendly enough to come through and talk to me and answer some of these questions for me. And before long, I think you'll find that somebody will be popping in, and it may be someone you knew or know or don't know, but they may be able to help you with your questions. Right now, for you, Anna, I have a lady who's come through to me, and she is she's showing me flowers, and she's making me notice the cherry blossoms and the apple blossoms all around me and the beautiful trees, and she is pointing those out to you. She wants you to realize how wonderful nature is and how wonderful our physical life is, and how you chose to be in this particular life, Anna, because of your love of nature. You wanted this experience of being able to understand nature. You have some difficulties, but these difficulties were put in so you could overcome them. Nothing was done for random. It is not your time, it's not your will to kill yourself, and maybe this attempt at suicide on a couple of occasions was part of a process that you'd created for yourself when you were planning this life, that would wake you up in a way to suddenly becoming more attuned to other dimensions. But that's all it should ever be for you. Your life is to be led here. You realize that because you're only 17, maybe 18 now. And you need to devote yourself to nature. Nature is your calling. You need to, I'm feeling very strongly from her, You need to find a career that involves nature or involves flowers. It'll bring you so much more happiness, and it'll enable you to make contact with other dimensions and make you realize your purpose here. I think that's a very nice message for you. I really do. And I really hope that will help you. She also wants to say something about suicide, Anna. There are so many people that have committed suicide. Many people commit suicide every day. And I think we've covered this in previous podcasts. It's entirely your right to do whatever you wish to do with your physical body. There is nothing wrong about taking your body and harming it if you wish to, or ending your physical life if that's what you wish to do. But, and this is a big but, most of what you're planning to do in your life will then not happen. And also the knock-on effect for everyone connected to you, your mother, your father, your brothers, your sisters, your relations, your schoolmates, everyone around you will be forever indelibly affected by what you would do if you killed yourself. It's a massive responsibility, I suppose, as they would call the butterfly effect, that is more than just you, in a selfish way, ending your life. It is also, to a certain extent, influencing and semi-ending the lives of so many people, because some people will never get over that. It'll be hanging over them for the rest of their lives. Now, that shouldn't be said as if we're just trying to make you feel guilty here. Absolutely not. It's entirely your choice. But I'm being told by this lady, please, whatever you do, that is not what you were here to do. If you wish to contact spirits, and if you wish to progress a little bit further, and do what you've been doing already, where you actually have seen something that indicates an afterlife, if you like, or you're beginning to make some conscious effort to be involved in things that are not of this world. Don't give up. Keep trying. Read about it, learn about it. Find that quiet space. Send out those prayers and those thoughts, and sit there and just see what pops in. Yeah, that's my message really to you, Anna. The lady, Anna, is also referring me very much to my own life here too, because those of you who've been following my depression probably have picked up a little bit a while ago about some of the issues that my own family faces, and every family faces issues, and I obviously have an issue that I've had last year with my two twin girls, and they are so much better and so much happier, and they've both been through some wonderful help with hospitals and therapists. And my wife and I have done our best also to be as supportive as we can, but it's not been easy. It's not been easy on either of us to be able to deal with the depression that comes perhaps as being a teenage girl. And the lady is asking me just to tell you a little bit about that, in order to perhaps put into context the difficulties of being a young woman in 2025. I think with the effects of media and with the effects of the expectation placed on young women to be the best, to look the best, to only have the best experiences and the best life, to have the most friends, to have all the latest clothes and perfumes and makeup, to have all the best gadgets. And on top of that, to somehow have the best results in school and university, to find the very best boyfriend or girlfriend, all of that puts a huge burden on young people, and more so than ever. And you can either, I suppose, hide under a rock and keep yourself away from society as much as you can, or you have to learn to deal with it in a way that perhaps previous generations have never had to deal with it before. But the good news is, there is now so much more understanding out there of the problems that young people face, and so much more help for them. So really, Anna, you're never going to be alone. There are so many organizations, so many people. I'm here for you too. We're all here for people who need help and who feel depressed and somehow feel they cannot cope. And you will come through on the other side, and you will probably end up helping people. I'm feeling that strongly. You'll end up probably helping people who've been through what you've been through. And maybe that could be your life's work. Maybe you're supposed to become a preacher. Maybe you're supposed to become a psychologist. But I think you've been through this for a purpose. You've sometimes in life got to experience things really firsthand in order to put yourself into the frame of mind of knowing what your future is. Lastly, I'm being drawn to the actor, the very famous actor Daniel Day-Lewis. I was really lucky enough to watch an interview with him, and he's considered by many to be probably the finest actor living. He's won, I think, 3 Oscars as Best Actor, the only actor to ever have done that. But what is fascinating about him is that when he plays a person, whether it's Lincoln or whether it's this Daniel Plainview in There Will Be Blood, or whoever it might be, he inhabits that person. He learns the voice because he feels that is the best outward manifestation of somebody's soul. He completely gets taken over by the part, and he feels that's the right thing to do because he can then really allow that character to inhabit him. I'm picking that up, and I want to talk about that very briefly, only because, if you like, it's the nearest thing in a profession to actually being psychic and being able to connect to someone who's no longer there. And whether he realized it or not, he, as a great actor, has been able to connect somehow to these characters that he portrays in a way that is deeper than most actors ever do. And rather like the musicians who I've heard of, and I've even had communication with, such as David Gilmour of Pink Floyd, who believes that all the music that has ever been composed or ever will be composed or is being composed now exists in this multiverse, that all he is able to do as he considered a gifted musician is to tap into it and to allow it to come through him as a channel, and using his own mind, interpreting it as best as he can, and turning it also into his own art at the same time. But the foundations were all there. In the same way, Daniel Day-Lewis, whether he meant it or not, revealed that he's doing the same. And it came to him in a big way when he was performing Hamlet on stage. I'm not too sure when it was. And he had done many performances of Hamlet, and he really enjoyed doing it. But one night, and it turned out to be the last night that he did it, I think in the Olivia Theatre or the National Theatre in London, he was in the middle of the soliloquy in Hamlet, where I believe he's talking to his father. And for that one time only, Daniel Day-Lewis felt he was actually talking to his own father. And he was having a soliloquy with his own dead father that night. It was so emotional and so overcoming for him that he stopped and he walked off stage. They tried to put him back on stage, but he said he had the strength of 10 men almost. He was almost completely possessed. He had obviously made such a spiritual connection with his father, although he sort of never quite admits that it really was his father, but he believes that he had put himself into such a dimension that he was actually summoning his own father that night. And it had a devastating impact on him because he wasn't prepared for it. He couldn't go back on, and he never ever went back on stage to do Hamlet for that run ever again. And as far as I know, he's never been on stage since. So that shows you the power of being connected to the spiritual world, and maybe also the power of Shakespeare, who, when he wrote that amazing soliloquy, must have had that in mind, that he was writing almost a summoning for a man to contact his dead father. So I'd say that, Anna, go into things meaningfully and deliberately, and really go in with intent. That is what the people are doing at the moment who are trying to reach interdimensional beings. They are genuinely, with intent, wanting to meet people, to ask them to come through. And I believe they are coming through. So it's that same thing. It's not a game. It's not an act. It's a sense of genuine communication with full humility. And they will come. They will come through. Okay, so this is obviously taking a little bit longer than I intended, but I think it's very worthwhile. And thank you again, Anna, for contacting me. Please keep in touch. You have my email address at the bottom of the description of the podcast. I'm really happy to talk to anyone who wants to write to me. I'm sorry it's taking me so long, but I will try to get my time management improved. I will definitely try to reply to you, and I will try to include my feelings on the podcast. The second one comes from a lady, I believe, called Sunnie. And now she wrote to me again in November the 6th, 2024. And here is her letter. Dear Philip, I hope you're well. I recently discovered your podcast, and I have been listening daily. After hearing episode 8, I felt compelled to reach out and see if you might help me connect with my father, who passed away 3.5 years ago. He passed during the COVID period after a cardiac arrest in the hospital, and due to restrictions, we were only able to visit briefly each week. During those visits, I spoke to him, hoping he could hear me, but he was unresponsive. I often wonder if he was aware of our presence and what he may have been feeling or thinking in his final days. Well, I've got some really good news for you, Sunnie. Just as I was reading that, I was flooded with messages from him. So hold on, let's just finish your email. I'd love to know if he's around us, if he can see us, and if the hummingbirds we see at our windows are signs from him, as he loved them dearly. I miss him deeply and would find comfort in feeling closer to him. Thank you for considering my request. Warmly, Sunnie. And then she had also a couple of other messages to me. She wanted to thank me for sharing my insights using your gift. I think I wrote back to her. Listening to your podcast has truly opened my eyes to the bigger picture and helped me see things in a new light. Knowing it's all meant to happen is such an enlightening revelation. There we go. So, Sunnie, what happened? I'm usually, as I'm reading something, things suddenly came through, and I'm not terribly sure if it is your father, but for whatever reason, when I was reading that little bit, most definitely, it was very, very important that I actually talked to you about what happened in those times, in the COVID times. And this will probably affect a lot of people. And I think this is your father. And I think he's wanting me to say these things. He's saying that there is a very fine line between being conscious and being unconscious. He says that I have mentioned before that people can take hallucinatory drugs or drugs, and that can allow other consciousnesses to either temporarily or permanently enter somebody's physical body. The same thing, he's saying, happens if you are unconscious because you've either been drugged up in the hospital because of COVID. He's saying that a lot of people were drugged up for a lot of. He's saying for a lot of. He's a bit of a conspiracy theorist here. I think he's feeling sometimes they were overdrugged and unnecessarily drugged. Okay, and sometimes it was better for their relations, and also the nurses, rather than to see their loved ones suffering. However, he's saying that in his case, he was fully aware of what was going on around him, as everyone is, but they're not physically connected to their body in many respects. They are sort of, if you like, standing on the side. And he's saying, picture this. He says, imagine me in that bed and you're sitting there talking to me, and I'm actually standing right next to you. But I'm unable to communicate with you for two reasons, he says, because number one, I'm not dead. And number two, you wouldn't be able to receive my impressions anyway. But he said that, most definitely, he said that he was in a situation where he wasn't suffering. And he was so pleased that people would come and talk to him and read to him and speak to him. And he said that although other people weren't able to visit, there were an awful lot of good people who were there. And although maybe family could only visit for short periods of time, he said you would be surprised how dedicated other people were during that period. He said it was a really busy time, and it was really hard. But he said there were people who would come to him in that particular place, and they were such wonderful people. They would still talk to him, even though that they were dealing with his body and trying to make him comfortable. They would still talk to him and treat him as a human. So he said he's actually wanting to thank very much, I think, the place where he was, maybe the hospital that he was in. And maybe you can even identify perhaps who these nurses or assistants were. But yes, he was certainly aware of what was going on around him, and he was deeply moved at all of that. But he was at peace and he was not unhappy. Yes, finally, he did pass away, but that was his time. He wants you also, please, not to feel sorry for that. Everyone has their time, and that was his. He's actually sending me an image of a life that he perhaps could have had he survived. But he said that the life that he could have had in another timeline may have equally been short, even if he hadn't died in the circumstances that he was in. This was his time, and he says, please don't feel sorry for me, don't feel sad. He said, you'll never miss me in that respect because I'm always there. He's wanting to make me aware and pass that on to you, that he is there. He's always there. He was there, he said, when you were writing that email to me. That was his way of pushing you into realizing that he is around you. He's right with you. And again, if you will reach out and talk to him, he's happy to talk back. And it'll take some practice for you to be able to decipher the messages that he's giving. He wants to pick up on the hummingbirds. He said it is certainly true that sometimes it's the very hardest thing for a soul that is now not part of your physical reality to make itself known. And quite often, he said that it's been a long-standing thing with humanity and souls that they will communicate in other ways. Some people say they can communicate obviously through animals, or they can communicate through pets, or they can communicate through birds, or they can communicate through the sounds of nature. And all of that is right. And if you feel that I've communicated, he says, through hummingbirds, I'm sure he says it's true. He really feels that there is some positive advantage to that. He says that even a mouse is a communication. A mouse is a small animal, but it has a soul, and it's a communication with a human as well. I'm not sure, Sunnie, but did your father like animals? And actually, did he like mice, and did he like anything like that? I don't know why that was really very, very strong. And strangely enough, as I was saying that, looking over to the grave on my right, I saw a little mouse, and he suddenly appeared, and he wasn't frightened of me at all. He was stared at me, and then he came running all the way across the path, right to me, right to my feet. And he paused and then ran underneath the bench that I'm sitting on. And I had a real sense at that moment that that was your father. And he was showing me that he is there. And he does come through animals. For whatever reason, he likes to do that. And pay attention, because he is there. I think that's wonderful. Thank you very much, Sunnie, for writing to me. So you'll hear a slightly different sound acoustic as I've come back home now. I had to do something, so I couldn't stay any longer in the graveyard. Nice cup of coffee. Yeah, I had an interesting experience there because towards the end, and it kind of took me out of my stride, a young woman came along with, I was going to use that German word, Gießkanne, or watering can, as they call it. And she was about to fill up the water. I only realized then that I was obviously sitting pretty close to the area where people fill up their watering cans so they can water the flowers for their graves. And I became a little bit self-conscious, and she must have thought I was completely balmy because I was talking to graves with pieces of paper in my hands and an iPhone on my lap. So it kind of took me out of my stride. So I decided I would do the third one at home. And this one is from a lady called Beth. And Beth first wrote to me more recently, actually, on the 23rd of March. And her email goes like this. Hello, my name is Beth. I love your podcast and want to let you know how much it is truly helping me. I'm grateful to you as I've had many difficult recent losses that I struggle with. And thank you so much for doing this podcast and following your wonderful guide. I am also starting a podcast to help people, to give them options for alternative healing strategies. I am interviewing people who have successfully used alternative healing strategies to improve or suppress a condition or injury. Beth talks a little bit more, and she's also written to me since as well about the podcast she's doing, and good luck with that. But I won't go into the great detail about it, other than the fact we should get down to what we're going to discuss today, and that's that she lost a friend to cancer. And she would basically do anything to be able to communicate with him. She's terribly sad. She went from a relationship of talking to this person daily to not talking at all, and was wondering if we could try to contact him. So that's really what it's all about. And in a follow-up email, as recently as two days ago, she also wrote to me and she was obviously glad that I was going to try my best to talk to her friend. And I will try that, Beth, later on. After I finish this little introduction, I will go out again because, believe it or not, it's 24 hours since I started this conversation. And I had some really interesting thoughts last night in my sleep and decided that it would be very, very good if I went out and contacted your friend outside. She loves the fact that I like to use my bicycle, which is good. She's involved in bike riding as well. I don't want to say too much in case it gives it away. She loves to discuss this type of thing, and she feels that it's great fun to hear me out on my journeys and hear the birds singing in the background. She kindly said that I managed to paint a picture with my words and my surroundings and the sounds, and it makes me feel as if I am there. Well, that's great, because that's just what I wanted to do. I want you to feel that I'm with you and you're with me, which is cool. She adds that just to let you know, we're out there listening. We appreciate you and respect your journey and your willingness to share publicly. I am hurting from loss and looking to connect with him. Yes, I realize that. And it is a tremendous honor for me to try to help you, but equally it's also a tremendous responsibility sometimes, I think, particularly the feeling that I say something wrong or I say nothing at all. But I am what I am, and I've already said to you in another email privately that the way that I do this podcast is just to be myself, noises and all, apart from perhaps dog barking and doors ringing, or yesterday I even kept my cup of coffee in there. So I try to be as normal and as natural as I can. I really resist anything that sounds too commercial or too professional in that respect. I certainly don't want to make any money out of this. I certainly don't want any advertising or anything like that. All of that, as I've said before, is the absolute killer to authenticity and truth, I believe. And I've had many arguments with people about that. So sorry, that is quite a strong feeling that I have. I don't need the money. I'd rather just help people. So that's it. So I think so. That's it. And she actually does mention to me that she respects my perspective on people who charge exorbitant amounts for their psychic skills. It automatically puts up an element of distrust when I encounter this and I lose interest. So yes, Beth, I will try to contact your friend. I've just got to get out on my bike, and since you like that as well, and I will find somewhere to go. I'm not sure where I'll go, but I think I'm going to be led to the right place. And when you next hear from me, I'll be sitting there, and hopefully I'll be able to help you. Well, here I am. Didn't know I'd end up here. I've ended up in what's called the Südfriedhof, which is translated as the South Cemetery. It's not far away from where I live. I looked it up because I wanted to go somewhere that had some significance, and I've never been here before. And it turns out it's the biggest cemetery in Cologne. And by big, it is big. I mean, it is so much bigger than the ones I've been to before. It's like a city of the dead. It goes on for acres and acres and acres. You need a bicycle or a car to get around it. I'm sitting sort of in the middle of it, and I found this enclosed space with thousands of graves laid out, as I remember, like war graves in the United States in Arlington Cemetery. And I pushed through the gates to come in here, and I was absolutely amazed again to see the coincidence of why I'm here. I never knew this existed until I walked through the gates just now. It's thousands and rows upon rows of neatly laid out white stone graves for Commonwealth soldiers, British soldiers, who died during the First World War, and obviously died in this area. I'm not too sure of what happened here in the First World War. I suppose this is all trench warfare. Whether it came as close to Cologne, I don't know, but it must have if they're all buried here. It's an interesting site. And this land was given to the British Commonwealth in perpetuity after the First World War in memorial. And I immediately thought, my goodness, what would have Germans have thought about this site for all the British war dead in the middle of their city during the Second World War, when they had another big altercation with the British and others. I have to look that up. But here it is, and it's very, very moving. And then I thought to myself, well, how is this linking to Beth and everything that I would like to say? Well, my first feeling immediately came as I was walking in, futility, the futility of dying so young. And as I walked from stone to stone, and I must have seen quite a few, it's too much to see. I mean, you could spend weeks looking at every name. But everyone here is a person. One or two stones have no name. They're just the unknown soldier. But most of them, in fact, nearly all of them have a name. Officers tend to be like in the rank days at the head of the rows, and then and at the end of the rows. And in the middle are all the privates. And they were all in their 1920s, some 25, some 30, very few older than 40, but most of them between 20 and 30. And the futility of it all these thousands of young men who died just as they were beginning to live. And this is what I wanted to say, and this is what I felt for Beth and her friend. Obviously, I know more about Beth's friend than probably I'd know about other people who write to me, and that's that he was obviously a chap who died of cancer. But I suppose this is the sadness of the whole situation, is that you know somebody who is so young and who has their whole life ahead of them, and it's snuffed out, in this case, in a brutal fashion in war. But in Beth's friend, died of a tragic disease, very, very young, just as his life was really getting underway. And although it's another beautiful sunny day, not a cloud in the sky, with the sun pouring down on me, and I'm sitting in the central part of this whole memorial, actually sitting beneath a huge white cross, with the cross sort of decorated as a sword. So you have a huge white stone cross, and then within that cross you've got the cross of an old sort of sword, which in a way immediately makes me feel rather sad, because it's this link again between dying and war, and the fact that people are being celebrated, I suppose, if you want to say that, for being soldiers, but memorialized for the fact that they died being soldiers, and they died by the sword. It's very dramatic, I think, to use that symbol. It's almost got an irony to it, a sad irony, that, if this had been anywhere else, like in Rodenkirchen Cemetery, maybe we would have learned what these people had done, and maybe it would have been a different feeling about their death. But here, you find almost that everyone has become one. They've become dead soldiers. That is their career. That it was their life. That is how they died. That is how they're being remembered here, in regimented lines, and as soldiers. In many cases, on the graves, you have their names, you have their regiments, you have the date that they died, and that's all. For instance, I'm just looking at here. This is Sergeant W.C. Colville of the Cameron Highlanders, 4th of May 1918. And it has, I presume, the sigil of his regiment. Another one, Coldstream Guards. He died, it says he died in October, 30th of October 1918, J. Imre, and he was 35. A.R. Phillips of the Royal Fusiliers in 1918. But it goes on. There was no indication at all of what else these children could have accomplished in their lives, or what they had accomplished maybe before they died at age 21. Not a lot, I presume, which is very sad. And again, forgotten maybe, because I'm here, there's nobody here. People aged 19, Mr. P.W. Tilney, Norfolk Regiment, 16th of August 1918, aged 19 years old. So right ahead of me is a great big stone tablet which I'll go towards, and it says, "Their name liveth forevermore." Well, I think you've got that slightly wrong. I mean, their soul will live forevermore. Their name is here, but it's not going to live forevermore. It'll eventually be forgotten. And what they all did, the individual acts of heroism or otherwise that these poor young men were involved in, it's extremely sad to think it all came eventually to this. Again, how does this relate to Beth and her friend? I need to think a little bit about it here, but I know there is a big connection here between where I am and Beth's friend. I have no idea who he is and what he did for a living, but maybe I have a sense in a way that he was involved with helping people in some way, and maybe even something medical. Maybe he was a doctor or something like that. And maybe I feel drawn to this place because he just wanted to show me something to do with war. Maybe he was a soldier or had been in the military. I really can't say. But there is something here. So let me think about it. I need to do my protection rituals, and I'll see if I can't get any more information. So I'm now sitting down again inside this memorial. I'm right at the very end. I'm facing east, which was very easy because that's the direction I need to face when I start my protection ritual. And I've done that, so that's fine. As I said, I don't do it because I'm scared of anything. I find that just good manners. It's almost like summoning the guardian angels just to ask them to be here and to support me. To show my respect for the situation that I'm in, that I am amongst the memories and the energy probably still of thousands of people, and I summon their spirits through my goodwill and through love, and I'm not interested in anybody who means me harm or wishes to cause anybody harm who wants to listen to this. So that's why I do it, and I will just let you know if I feel anything that's coming through. One thought that came through was music again, and that was almost the sound of bagpipes. That might be slightly cliched because obviously you hear about bagpipes as being an instrument that's used and played at funerals, and particularly in military funerals. But I did hear some strange sounds, and I thought, my God, it's some sort of spectral bagpipes. But it turned out to be an electronic device. They're spread around this place. I don't know what they are. They're like almost, they're not lights, but they're electronic, and they're at the bottom of certain parts of these rows of graves, and they just emit just a single peep, like peep, and that's it. And I wonder why. I have absolutely no knowledge. Maybe it's something to do with security, or maybe it's something to do with letting the people who look after these graves know that the ground is too dry or something. I have absolutely no idea. Again, something else I've never seen before, and I would love to know a bit more about. Music. Yeah. For a week or so, I've had a real pain in my left shoulder. I think I just slept badly, but this morning I suddenly was walking around the house and I had a tremendous pain in my left back near the hip. And again, I sometimes wonder why these things come on and what it's trying to tell me. But I had a feeling sitting here. Again, maybe this is Beth's friend, but a sense of healing, a sense of this person is trying to send some healing to me, and would like to make my back better. Maybe sports massage was his thing. I don't know. I only say that because I know that Beth mentioned to me in another email how she's involved in various sports and she used to be with this chap a lot. So maybe that's what he was. Maybe he was involved in sports and sports medicine. I have no idea. But I certainly do get that feeling that he's doing something about my shoulder and my back. And I think it's a nice feeling. It's a very warm feeling sitting here in the sunshine and almost being worked on spiritually. So yes, Beth, maybe that's the message that I'm being passed, is that healing is not over, and it's possible that those people who have passed on can still get involved in healing you now. I've actually thought about that before, and maybe it's come through in other ways, but the tremendous energy that is left behind by people is energy that can be used for all sorts of things if you tap into it. It can be used to heal, and it can be used to give you help in your own daily life if you lack energy. And I feel a tremendous amount of energy here, of course, because I'm surrounded by all this energy from 100 years ago, but still, it's most definitely here. And maybe, Beth, the energy that will come to you with the thought and the memory of your friend will help you with your healing. And maybe that's something that you need to dwell a bit more on and to try to summon him. And I think he's indicating to me that that's what he would love to be remembered by, was that his life may have ended, but he's not forgotten and he is still able to help. His memory and his energy is still there to help heal people now. And you mustn't forget that. It's not over. Nothing is over. It's all happening within us. It's all happening around us. It's happening in other realities simultaneously to us. And those that we say are dead are never dead, because there is no death. And just as I said that, I can hear church bells. And it's a wonderful uplifting sound. It's a sound of resurrection almost. And maybe underlying that point, that death isn't the end. It's a moving into a new form of reality. And it can be obviously an extremely happy time, as well as a sad time for those who are left behind, but in the knowledge that there is no death, and that all your friends, everyone who's listening to this podcast, are in a fine place. There is no hell, there is no heaven, there is purely and simply a place where we all return to, where we all came from. And please don't be sad. Is the message. Please don't be sad for them. Treat them as you would in life. Talk to them in your sleep, talk to them in life. Tap into their energy. They are here to help. They are here to assist you. And they most definitely will assist you. And your friend will assist you, Beth, in your endeavors. Now, I always know using names is something that is fraught with danger, because it could be so wrong and yet it could be so right. But I'll only put this name out for you, which is coming to me, which is Derek. I don't know who Derek is, if he means anything to anybody who's listening. Yeah. So that's really all. I'm feeling a little bit better. My shoulder's feeling better and my back is feeling better. I certainly have felt the energy coming to me here. Why I am here at a British war grave in the middle of Germany, I do not know. But there seems to be some connection either with Beth and her friend or with other people. It's a lovely place to be. I definitely will come here again. It's certainly enhanced by the wonderful weather, and you can hear the birds, and wow, life is great. But it is tragic. It is so tragic how these young men I'm surrounded by never got the chance to really see life to its full, maybe to have families and children themselves. And you can ask yourself the question, from everything that we've learned in the last year or so with this podcast, why would people choose to die in this fashion? Why would they come to a life that was so short? And I can only answer it here by saying, as I think I've said before, their lives were not wasted. There was a sacrifice. It may have made some small difference in the whole scheme of the ending of the war. But the effects that their deaths had on numerous people, each one of these graves has a cobweb of people associated with it, who felt the death, who knew the person, who was affected by the death of a son, of a brother, maybe even a husband. They had an impact on their lives here, and that sacrifice they made was a choice that they made, and for whatever reason, there was an experience to be learned by living and fighting and dying young. I can't fathom it sometimes when I'm sitting here, because it just seems so futile. But who am I to say somebody's life is futile? Not me. Everyone's life is their choice. Everyone has made decisions to live a life in a certain way. And anyway, as I know, all these young men are doing different things now as different entities, and as part of different souls. And this was just one of the things that they did that made them what they are. And yeah, it's not futile in that respect. It is. There has to be a purpose to this in the whole scheme of existence. So on that note, on that happy note, that all of this has a purpose that perhaps we can't always see, and that yes, people die young, and they die of cancer, and they die of horrible diseases and injuries, and we can't see that in our grief, but there is a purpose for it. There is the effect that it'll have for people who are left behind that can be a positive thing, and that can make people do things positively in memory of these people. That is a wonderful thing, and nothing better can come out of a premature death than that. This comes from Maria. Again, I won't use your last name, Maria. You wrote to me on the 20th of December last year, and you wrote and said, "Dear Philip, I found your interesting podcast very recently and listened to the first 6 episodes in a row. I skipped to number 50 to confirm what I suspected already. Over the course of your time on air, you have not added a Patreon or taken on sponsors. Your dedication for the sake of fulfilling your purpose seems very genuine. I listened to the first episode and you truly spoke to me. I look forward to listening to the more older episodes and the new ones in January. Happy Christmas to you. I wrote back to Maria, and then she carried on, I think, with a further email in December. I started listening to your podcast recently because I want to expand the spiritual part of my life. Also, I'm hoping to hear from my dad, who died 40 years ago when I was 20, or my dear friend David, who will have passed 2 years ago next April. Thank you for your time. Well, thanks very much for that, Maria. I have actually relocated again. I wanted to get home and have a quick research of the Südfriedhof before I talked further about Maria's email. And there's not much more to say than I've already found when I was there, apart from it being the biggest Friedhof in Cologne. It's got 47,000 graves. And as I left, I had to use my Google navigation because I couldn't get out. It's just so huge, and there's no signage at all to tell you where the exits are. Yes, it was built just at the beginning of the 20th century as an overflow really from Melton Cemetery, which didn't surprise me. And yes, it has all sorts of sections for the war dead. It has actually some more recent ones because a lot of the British occupational forces after the Second World War were also buried there, as well as I didn't see this, but as well as a number of Air Force people who died bombing Cologne. Now that won't come as a huge pleasure to many Germans because they were responsible for, as wars are, the destruction of Cologne from the air and the terrible blitzkriegs that took place and the firebombing. So, they're all buried there as well. There are also sections apparently for homeless people, which really caught me, which I thought was a wonderful feeling that people cared about it. But that was only opened in 1997 because normally homeless people are just cremated and buried in a grave with nobody else really, apart from homeless people, and no name recognition, nothing. It's all rather sad, isn't it? And there's a section for babies that were born prematurely or died in birth, also very moving. So, the realities of human existence seem to be very stark when you go to a funeral home like that. And there is also a small place where they have services there. There is a mortuary. There's a crematorium nearby. So it's a whole massive, thousands of square meters of cemetery and place of the dead. And as I was leaving, there was a funeral underway, and there was this small kind of garden tractor with a funeral urn on it, and there must have been 150 people walking in line behind it, dressed in black. And it was quite moving again to see a funeral. First time I've actually seen a funeral in a cemetery that I visited. Just a quick question for you, Maria. One of these strange things happened. I again, nothing ever happens without some coincidence, but recently, for whatever reason, I suddenly decided to start listening to Radiohead. And I obviously have over the years heard various songs, but I didn't know them at all well. And so I decided to get all of their albums on 12-inch vinyl. Now, I'm a bit of a vinyl freak, as is my son, which is fine. I still love the actual holding of a vinyl record. But I was wondering if your friend David actually liked Radiohead, and in particular, did he like the album OK Computer? And I'm certainly being very much drawn towards the first track, which is called Airbag. Now, I don't know why, but I suddenly thought of your friend David, when I heard that. I don't know if that means anything. I hope it wasn't a car crash or something as well that might have caused his demise. But Radiohead, isn't that interesting? Again, nothing seems to happen in my life without some sort of reason, and there must have been some sense, maybe in your life or in your, in maybe even in your friend's life, about the band Radiohead. And when I was listening to it just before I was starting to do this podcast, that's the thought that came into my head. There was a lyric that was going on in the background that Tom York, the singer, was singing, and it was called "Jesus Loves His Children," and that's a lovely thought. But again, I wonder if that means anything to you. And a name just came through, Stuart, and I don't know if that would be a Stuart Healy or whatever. I don't even know if Healy is your real name. Or if that is a maiden name or what, but Stuart Healy came through. Also, another thought came through to me when I was reading about the cemetery that I've just been to, and this suddenly resonated a bit with me and you, Maria. There is actually a grave there, which I didn't see, so I must go back and have a look, and it's for a lady who was killed. She was a school teacher, and she was killed in Cologne when some mad individual tried to enter the school and get involved with, I presume, massacring the poor children. She died stopping this individual getting into the school, and she's memorialized there. And apparently on her gravestone is carved a woman sort of holding back fire, I believe. And with the children being protected in her clothes, in her coat or cloak from that fire. It sounds a wonderful image. But I had that very strong feeling. Does that mean anything to you? Does that mean anything to you? A school shooting or some sort of accident at a school, something to do with a school? I wonder. So it's funny, really, Maria, whether it's your father or whether it's your friend David, the feelings that I've had the whole day and yesterday and the day before, actually, because I've been doing this podcast for nearly 3 days now. Yes, I am sorry that it's taken me so long to get around to doing this, but there must be, again, a reason for that, is that they are all somehow linked. Everybody's linked in this story. And I really hope that that some of the stories that you've heard and some of the feelings that I've tried to articulate will mean something to you. Maybe it won't mean something to you, Maria. Maybe it'll mean something to Sunnie or to Beth. Who knows? It's a sort of a strange paradox that somehow maybe everybody's related, and all these things may come through and be relevant to any one of them. I don't mind that. At least it's honest, and it's the way things come. It's not necessarily about me getting specific things about a specific person all the time. And also for you, Anna, yes, I really hope that you got some comfort with some of the messages. I can only imagine that these messages also are meant for you in a way, because I really hope that you're going to learn to at least live with the depression that you've had, and that you will be able to see through it and help people. I hope that, as young as you are, you will understand how wonderful life is, how beautiful life is, and how you must be careful to preserve your life, as hard as it may be, because it's not your time to end it. And it is a wonderful subject to talk about being dead and what happens after death, and all the spirituality, and as you said, the frequencies and the physics of that, and how it's all connected. But nothing beats being in human form. I'm so grateful that I've got the chance to be in human form. And it's not easy. I struggle day to day. And it's not been easy for my children or my wife and for many, many people that I know. But that's the purpose of life. The purpose of life is to experience things and to struggle and to make it through and to learn from that experience. And to that end, enjoy life as much as you can. Revel in the fact that you've been given a chance to live, and try to dedicate yourself to helping others. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you soon.